On WSOC tonight, a COVID-19 reality check. Cases are drastically rising, and many wonder if a second wave is on the horizon. The surge overseas is already forcing several countries in Europe to shut down again.
The increase in the virus is quite scary.
Many want to know, could that happen here? Especially as we head into flu season, the holidays, and a very important election. It's something our Joe Bruno asked Vice President Mike Pence in a one-on-one interview.
At what point do you think Governor Roy Cooper and other governors across the country may have to think about restrictions again?
Plus, North Carolina revealing its vaccine plan today. Who state leaders think should be first in line to get it? And the ultimate setback for one woman fighting breast cancer. The mistake made forcing her to get another round of chemo that she may not even need. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Erica Bryant. We start tonight with the alarming rise in COVID-19 cases that we're seeing across our area, nationwide, and around the globe. Now, these are numbers that we talk about and show you daily, but tonight we're taking a deeper dive into why they matter so much to you and your family. First, we start with North Carolina, the state breaking another record today with 2,684 new cases. That is now the highest number in one day since the beginning of the pandemic, beating the record we set yesterday. Now, it was just yesterday that state officials were asked what restrictions would be put in place if our trends continue to go in this direction, especially as phase 3 is set to expire 1 week from today.
We will look at the metrics, determine what might need to be done next to make sure that we are trying to control this virus and to control the spread of it.
No one wants to move backwards, but I think you can imagine that if we needed to move backwards, we'd want to start with high activities that were at higher risk of spreading this virus.
All this coming before we hit the peak of flu season, have holiday gatherings, or hit the cold winter months. So are we about to hit a second wave? Today, the United States hit a new milestone, surpassing 8 million cases. But in Europe, they're seeing a surge in daily cases higher than we are, forcing countries to shut down once again. And from what we've seen in the past with this virus, what happens elsewhere could eventually impact us here. And that is something our Genevieve Curtis spent the day looking into. And Genevieve, if we are seeing overseas what happens here, this would devastate many businesses that are still trying to bounce back and recover.
Yeah, Erica, it certainly is concerning to see that crackdown now happening in Europe. But one Londoner I spoke to today says the U.S. can learn from what's happening there right now.
It's pretty grim because, as you know, we, the British, we love our pubs and clubs and, all that sort of thing. So there has been like a curfew on certain things like that.
Tonight across the pond, Yvonne Lawrence settled in for a quiet night at home in West London, where new, tighter restrictions have just gone into place, including a curfew and a new limit on gatherings, which can include a massive fine.
We cannot mix with anybody else apart from people in your own household. So I can't go and visit relatives, that live down the road. You cannot go inside their homes.
Across Europe, cases are spiking as it experiences an apparent second wave of coronavirus. And while treatment and doctors' understanding of the virus has improved, nothing has changed in how contagious it is.
We don't have as many deaths, but the increase in the virus is quite scary.
Here in the U.S. and more specifically in North Carolina, cases are rising. And as the trends go in the wrong direction, Governor Cooper says tightening restrictions isn't off the table.
It's nice to be able to find an environment where you can make it work for everybody.
On Friday night, Karen and Mark Webster came out to support a local business, the Armored Cow. They were able to grab a beer, sit outside at socially distant tables, and enjoy a perfect fall Friday night. They don't want to see restrictions go backwards.
I would like to just people to get on board with wear a mask for small business, wear a mask for your people, wear a mask for your community, so that we can all have the freedom to get out and support small business but still be safe.
And they're concerned about what tighter restrictions, like what's happening again in Europe, could do to local businesses.
We want all these businesses to survive. These are families, these are people that are part of our community, and we want everybody to survive this.
So as the holidays approach and the weather gets colder, Lauren says we can look to Europe as an example.
You know, if there's anything that the US can probably learn from us, is to just take it more seriously.
And Genevieve, Europe also seeing some of the resistance to the restrictions there too.
Yeah, you know, Erica, it's not unique to the U.S. People are rebelling against those restrictions in Europe. Businesses are opening in defiance of those orders, and people are refusing to wear masks. All of that despite the massive spike in cases. Erica?
Thank you for that perspective, Genevieve. Now, when we do have an approved vaccine, what happens next? Today, North Carolina health leaders released the plan that they sent to the CDC. Anchor Allison Lottis breaks down what's in it.
Erica, the plan highlights three main things we want to break down for you. Who would get the vaccine first, the plan to get it to providers, and how they plan to build trust so that people will take it. First, let's dive into those people who will get priority. The first in line will be people who are critical to the care of virus patients and those who would help administer the vaccine. They listed healthcare workers, long-term care workers, emergency management, and firefighters in that group. Then people who are high risk are next, and we're talking about people who are most likely to get severely ill and those who are at a high risk of exposure. The people the state lists are long-term care patients, people over 65, and people who live and work in congregate settings like migrant farm camps, jails, prisons, and homeless shelters. Low-risk populations come after that. As for the plan to get it out, anyone who wants to administer the vaccine has to enroll in a government program to do so. Work is already underway to get health departments, hospitals, and major drugstore chains enrolled. And lastly, because vaccine hesitancy may be high, the state is planning on launching public campaigns to make sure that people know how safe it is. We've posted the entire plan in our WSOC app. Look for it inside the link in this story.
Thanks, Allison. A manufacturer says its vaccine candidate will likely be ready next month. Pfizer says it's on track to apply for emergency authorization of its vaccine in the third week of November if everything continues to go smoothly. Pfizer, one of 4 vaccine candidates in late-stage clinical trials in the U.S., but the authorization process could take months, and a vaccine may not be widely available until next spring. Early voting is continuing in North Carolina. In the past 2 days, more than 500,000 people statewide cast their ballots at polling sites. After a record-setting start, elections officials in Mecklenburg County expect the numbers to start to slow down before a mad dash to the finish line 2 weeks from now. North Carolina will play a critical role in who wins the presidential election. Today, Vice President Mike Pence held a rally in the Tar Heel State, and our Joe Bruno got to speak to him one-on-one.
The last time the Trump campaign was on this farm in Selma, Johnston County, 17,000 people were here to hear then candidate Donald Trump speak. 4 years and a global pandemic later, as you can imagine, the crowd size is a lot different, but it's still a lot larger than other events taking place across the state.
It is great to be back in the Tar Heel State.
In front of an audience of hundreds, Vice President Mike Pence rallied supporters in Selma, Johnston County. Masks were mixed and social distancing was limited. Fresh off a major COVID outbreak, I asked Vice President Mike Pence why he and the president continue to host large rallies.
Well, the American people have a constitutional right to peaceably assemble. And with an election just 18 days away, the president and I are absolutely determined to reach out to the American people and talk about the stakes in this election.
Pence's visit to North Carolina comes the same day the state set a record for COVID-19 cases. The state reported more than 2,600 cases today. Given this stat, I asked the vice president at what point should Governor Cooper consider tightening up restrictions. He said the focus needs to be on opening up, not closing down.
It's because of what we've all done together that we have the testing, we have the PPE, we have the equipment, the supplies, new medicines to be able to provide health care at an extraordinary level for Americans as we see cases rising across the heartland.
The CDC is hopeful a COVID vaccine will be ready by the end of the year. North Carolina released a distribution plan for one today. The vice president says the research triangle right here in North Carolina helped get us to this stage. He is hopeful come 2021, the COVID shot will be widely available to the public.
We'll just continue to manufacture, continue to make it broadly available, and anticipate that as the weeks and months go on in 2021, we'll literally have millions of more doses available for the American public and reach that day when we put this coronavirus in the past.
Vice President Mike Pence spoke for about an hour today. He touted the Trump administration's accomplishments and promised the confirmation of Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Back to you.
Thanks, Joe. More visits ahead. Democratic candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden will campaign in Durham on Sunday. That event starts at 1 p.m. And then next Wednesday, the president will hold a rally at Gastonia Municipal Airport starting at 7 p.m. And on Election Day, we will have you covered all night long, both here on Channel 9 and on TV 64 starting at 7 p.m. Then continuing, and join us here on Channel 9 at 11 for all the latest results that continue to come in that night. New tonight, UNC Charlotte school officials are trying to figure out who Zoom bombed a meeting and started spewing hate. The school's Black Student Union released a statement about the disturbance during their first general body Zoom meeting Tuesday. The group says 2 Zoom bombers interrupted and started yelling racial slurs and other derogatory language at the beginning of the meeting. Investigators are still working to identify them. A cancer patient says she went in for a biopsy, but then the hospital lost her tissue specimens and there was no way to get more. She told Action 9 investigator Jason Sturgenke now she has to go through chemo again, and it might not be necessary.
Breast cancer?
Yes.
When were you diagnosed?
In February.
Julia Council told me she had chemo and went to Novant Health for surgery. She says doctors removed a lump and multiple lymph nodes and plan to test them to see if her treatment was working and what to do moving forward. Then, something she didn't expect.
My surgeon actually called me first and he apologized. He said, he's never heard of this happening, but that my specimens were lost.
Lost before they could be tested. Council told me that doctors can't operate again to get more specimens because, as planned, they removed all of them the first time.
So I'm like, okay, so now what do we do? I'm like, because we don't know anything. We just don't know which direction to go. We don't know what's happening, we don't know what's working, what's not working, and so now we're just kind of shooting in the dark.
She says she and her doctor decided she should go through chemo again for 6 months, even though she may not need it, and even though she says chemo took a toll on her the first time.
I developed a lot of bone pain, I'm hurting, so, I felt like I was barely functioning.
She says Novant sent her this letter acknowledging the specimens were misplaced and have not been found. The letter says the hospital did an exhaustive search but couldn't find them. It blames an error in communication, saying it is very unfortunate that human errors occur and we regret that this error affected you.
But even with that letter, it was like, we're sorry this happened to you, and that's it.
I asked Novant about her case. It emailed me, we are conducting an internal investigation, which includes an evaluation of our processes.
It's draining. It really is draining emotionally. And then to have all of this on top of everything, yeah.
Now, I wanted to find out how often this happens across the healthcare industry. I couldn't find any recent examples, but 2 did catch my eye. One study found 1 case in every roughly 1,500 specimens. The other found more than 4 cases for every 1,000 specimens, but that included different kinds of errors, not just lost specimens. But there's really not much you can do before the biopsy, and after you can always sue, but it's hard to win these cases, and obviously even if you do, that doesn't bring your specimens back. As for Julia Council, she's wrapping up radiation now. After that, she plans to give her body some time to recover, and then she plans to go ahead and tackle that extra 6 months of chemo.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and a local survivor wants to help others who may be newly diagnosed understand what to expect. Andrea Simmons was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 47. She joined other women and a man, each writing a chapter in a new book.
The name of the book is 12 Shades of Breast Cancer, and it's myself and 11 other survivors who are sharing our journey through breast cancer, each one of us being diagnosed with a different form of breast cancer and having a different journey.
Andrea says she noticed what felt like a bug bite in the center of her chest. She says people are not taught to check that area during a self-breast exam.
When you are taught to do self-exams, you're taught to check lumps in your breast and then around underneath your arms. However, part of the breast tissue also goes up to your chest near your collarbone and over near the mid chest, and that's actually where my bump was found.
The Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk is tomorrow morning, and it won't be a walk this year, actually. Instead, people will drive around Charlotte Motor Speedway starting at 7:30 a.m. And Channel 9's Allison Lottis is the MC. Right now, take a live look from our Uptown Charlotte Tower cam. Clear skies out there tonight. Chief Meteorologist Steve Udelson tracking some cooler temperatures for your weekend.
Right, Erica, the cooler air is already making its presence felt. We're running 10 to 15 degrees cooler than this time last night. We've got freeze warnings in effect for the mountains, and even frost advisories along the I-40 corridor will be in the mid to upper 30s. Charlotte South still in the lower 40s. Plenty cool, though, and that continues into the weekend. Gorgeous to get outside and enjoy anything outside. Mid 60s Saturday. Closer to 70 degrees as we head through Sunday. Again, the only issue will be first thing tomorrow morning. Early risers going to be dealing with some chill. Other than that, green lights for any outdoor activity. And don't forget the sunscreen if you're out there for any length of time, because we will see sunshine from start to finish as we go through the afternoon. Freedom Park starts chilly, 60 by lunchtime, on our way to the mid 60s as we go through the afternoon. High Country, low 50s on Saturday after starting below freezing, mid 50s on Sunday. And boy, this is the peak weekend to enjoy some fall color. Blue Ridge Parkway all across the High Country, but that color's coming on strong even in the Charlotte area. One thing that late October is known for, big temperature swings. Late summer returns as we head into next week, but have a great weekend.
Tonight, the Charlotte community came together to honor Judy Williams, the founder of Mothers of Murdered Offspring. She spent her life helping and giving back to others in ways they will never forget.
There is power in the name of Jesus.
Miss Judy was a God-fearing woman. She was doing what God would have her to do. She loved God and she loved God's people.
Break every chain, break every chain.
Without Judy, my sister would not have been honored the way that she has been. I want to thank everybody out here that has shown up. Please excuse me, y'all.
I hear the chain.
She was so loving and kind to everybody. She did not want anybody to not have a place to live. And if there was any problems in the community, we didn't need the police. We had Miss Judy.
We stand for what's right. All lives matter. There's an army. Come on. Shame. Shame. Hallelujah.
A legacy of love. We loved Miss Judy, and Miss Judy, most importantly, Miss Judy loved us, and we knew that she loved us.
Rock every hallelujah.
A fitting tribute to a true community angel. Well, ahead tonight, a treatment for COVID-19 now being called into question. The new study just released about remdesivir and what the drug's maker has to say about it. Some uncertainty tonight about a drug created in North Carolina that has been used to treat COVID cases. The World Health Organization saying that remdesivir had little to no effect on whether hospitalized patients recovered. The study found death rates after 28 days, the need for breathing machines, and time in the hospital were relatively similar for those given remdesivir versus other care. Remdesivir's maker, Gilead Sciences, said in a statement that the results are inconsistent with more rigorous studies and have not been fully reviewed or published. If you don't have any plans for the weekend right now, we are mapping out some of the best places you can go to check out the fall foliage when we come back. The leaves are starting to change, so how about taking a trip to the mountains to check out the fall foliage? We've mapped out two different options to see the fall colors. Lake Junaluska, it's a 2-hour, 19-minute drive away from Charlotte. Start by taking I-85 southbound through Gastonia, and you'll end at Great Smoky Mountain Expressway, US 74. That will take you right to the lake. Or take a shorter trip to Chimney Rock and Lake Lure. Start on I-85 through Gastonia. Lake Lure is first, or you can continue on 74 just a few miles away to Chimney Rock. Gorgeous. From costumes to hard candy, how a Carolina Panthers player is making sure that children have the Halloween essentials this year, even if the celebrations are going to look different. Halloween won't be quite the same for our children this year, but Carolina Panthers defensive tackle Derek Brown is going to make sure it'll still be fun. Today, his foundation, along with Project Universal Love, gave away $50,000 worth of costumes, candy, and toys. Organizers say they wanted to give back to Charlotte.
We want to make sure that we do something to be able to assist families in need. So this is our first event, free events all across Charlotte to be able to help support families that need it.
In November, they plan to team up again for an event to honor veterans. And in December, they'll be giving away $150,000 worth of Christmas gifts. Spreading love everywhere. Well, thanks for watching WSOC tonight. Our next newscast is tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Good night, everyone.